Okay, this will be the beginning of our second session or section, and what I've done is I've put in here the project as it was at the end of the last section, so you can find that, and I'll do the same thing at the end of this session as well. So let's go and continue where we left off, and that file is opening right now. All right, so here it is. And this is right where we left off. Look, we still have our output messages in there. All right, so let's jump over here to our level file. And one thing we didn't actually get to last session was putting in any of the property list info. And it's not the most exciting thing in the world, so I thought it'd be a little bit more fun to lead off with the physics stuff. Give you a little hint of that. But yeah, now it's about time to actually get some of this property list data in there. So we don't have much, and of course we'll be adding quite a lot in here. But let's just deal with what we have for right now. So we'll go and put that into our setup scene method, and let's start over here at the top. All right, we're going to put in ns string. This will be path equals, do two brackets here, ns bundle and our main bundle. So that just means our main bundle is this stuff right over here, those resources. And that's going to be our bundle path right there. So again, it's just all going back to finding things that you've put inside of your main bundle. And then we're going to create another ns string. Final path equals path string by appending path component, and put in here game data dot plist, and then finally we're going to set up an ns dictionary. This will be our plist data, and this is going to equal ns dictionary with contents of that particular file, and then we just put in here the path to the final, so it'll be final path. All right, so all that is going to give us our property list. And you know what we could do? Let's just paste in a quick little line here and ns log. There it is. This should spit out for us all of the property list data in the output window. By the way, that I had to laugh at myself. What I did is I copied in a note from one of my other projects I was working with, and it had a CC log statement, which is a Cocos 2D thing. All right, and of course the simulator's being slow as usual. Simulator is the worst possible test device. Everything runs faster on your device. Always remember that. And of course, the next thing we're going to do here is parse through the data inside of the actual NS dictionary. But let's scroll up here. All right, so you can see the property list contains, and then it says levels. All right, so there's our root, and then background equals level map 1, and then characters. And then, of course, here's our base frame character right there. So now we need to make sense of all that. And first thing we'll do is, well, we don't need this statement anymore. Let's come down here and write ns. You know, I have mutable array from my previous code, and we could probably get away with just an array. But since I don't really feel like introducing a possible error, I'll just leave that as a mutable array. But a mutable array means that it can be changed over time, whereas if you just have an ns array, it's kind of going to be kind of what it is without the option to change it later. So we'll leave it as mutable array. I think all this is going to get cleaned up for us anyway. It's not going to stay into it's not going to stick around is what the point I'm making, because we're kind of setting this all up in locally inside of this method, and I'm not holding on to or retaining anything over here in my interface yet. Some of this data we will hold on to, but not this stuff. All right, so we're going to put in here array with array, and then we put plist data object for key, and this is going to be our levels. And keep in mind, right now we only have one level in there, so there's not much to that. And then I'm going to write NS dictionary and level dict equals NS dictionary. This time around it is going to be dictionary with dictionary, and we're going to put in level array object at index, and let me get this out of the way just so we can see it. All right, well, the first level is obviously going to be the object at index 0, right? But by hard coding in 0 there, that means that we can't just reload this same level and pull up a different, or I should say the same level class and pull up a different level. So what we're going to want to do is put in here current level, right, and make that a declared variable up here. So scroll up to the top of the file and write int current level, and just for right now, what we could do is inside of our init statement, just put current level equals 0. But let's put a little note that says later on, because we're still hard coding in 0 now, later on we will create a singleton or something to hold game data that is independent of this class. Okay. So basically just a class separate from the level that is not going to change every time this level class reloads. And that could hold on to variables like what the current level is. All right, so for right now, that's just it's obviously just going to be 0. And next thing we're going to write here is going to be NS array character array equals, and now I guess this time around I decided to go with an NS array, but there you go, a little extra bang for your buck. You get to see a mutable array and an NS array at the same time, right within 3 lines of each other. All right, so, or 1 line of each other. We're gonna put in here level dict and then object for key, and this is gonna be now our characters. Okay. This is just telling me that it's an unused variable, but what I'm going to do is actually copy this, come up here to the top, put that over here, and now I'm not only declaring this for other methods to access, but it's going to hold on to this, it's going to retain this data for me, so even outside of this particular method here, it's going to realize that, hey, you know what, that character array, it's going to get used somewhere else, so don't wipe it out from memory, don't garbage collect it, essentially. And the level data here, I'm not going to save all of this, all right, because some of it I'm going to use kind of like right away, and other bits of it I'm going to kind of, well, I'm just going to be choosy about what things I want to keep around for later. And one example would be if you guys remember when I showed you in the introduction, the follow delay, all right, that which was at a 0.25 or a quarter of a second. Numbers like that I'm going to want to hold on to, but I'll be specific. I'll say, all right, you know what, I'm going to set up a follow delay float number, and I'll make that the data equal to that variable right away, and then that just keeps me from having to save all of the level data. But with the characters, I do kind of need to go back and forth occasionally and access the array, or each members information. And I'll kind of explain a little bit of that later on. But just know for right now that we are going to be holding on to this array. And let's keep moving forward here. Oops. It's not what I wanted you to see. All right, so going back, now we are going to, let's at least test this out to make sure that we do have the character array here. And these are all just objects, so we can put in here percentage and then that @ symbol, and it'll spit back out the information. And sure enough, all right, this time it did give me that. Sorry, you're seeing a kind of mini version of the output window here. All right, so now it's just telling me base frame equals a character. All right, good sign. So now that we've got that, let's skip on down to our setup characters method. And what I want to do is pass in that info to that particular character. Right now we've only got one, obviously. And this is going to look something like this. Leader, create with dictionary. And then I'm going to put in here character array, object at index 0, and close that off. We're going to get a warning right here because it has no idea what create with dictionary is. My CS character class doesn't have that declared as a method. Doesn't even have it as a method yet. But that's what we're going to put in. Before I step over there, though, I do just want to point out that again we're hard coding in here 0, but in this case it's actually all right because my leader is always going to be that first one that is defined in the list by default. That's just by default. We'll be able to swap leaders around later on, but when we first run this level, it's okay to put in here 0 in this case. Later on, when we create more characters, of course, we're going to just basically keep track of what number character we're creating in the list, and so the next time around we do this would be object at index 1, index 2. If you had 3 characters, but for right now that is okay. And what I want to do then is go over to my header file, and I'm just going to write in here void create with dictionary, and the parameter that we're passing in here is of course going to be a dictionary type, so we just write in ns dictionary, do a little star after that, and just so there we go. I was about to say, just so I keep things with the same names as my previous project, I'm going to put in here car data, so just character data, just to shorten it up a little bit. And the reason I'm getting an error here would be, well, let's see. Probably just because I haven't defined this in the, haven't written this in the class yet. So we're just going to copy that line right there, and then this time around do our opening and closing brackets, and obviously here put your end statement after that. All right, now I should definitely not be seeing okay, now everything is kind of slowly figuring out. All right, you're doing it right. So let's go back over here to the character, and what I'm going to do now is take what we previously wrote in the init statement and put it into this create with dictionary. All right, I can still do some initialization inside of here, and I will for some variables, but now the bulk of everything is going to only happen once we've called create with dictionary. So let's take all this and put it inside of here, and this log statement really doesn't need to be in here at all now, but when you think about it, it'd be a little bit more appropriate if it was right there too. And then this we can just leave it in here for right now. Eventually, I'm going to move this out into its own method because we might not necessarily set up a physics body anyway. So we'll run an if statement based on the data, the car data here, and yeah, so we'll reserve that in its own method. But let me step one more time back over here and just show you guys that we're running this first, running that second, and then we're finally adding the child inside of, or the leader inside of my world right here. So a lot of stuff is going to happen prior to this actually getting called, okay, before him actually getting added inside of there. And, you know, as you can kind of guess, this create with dictionary statement is going to call multiple methods outside of here and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, in the grand scheme of things, you know, prior to him actually getting added, a lot goes on. All right, so now I think we can actually go and use this character data that has gotten passed in, and we want to put in the base frame instead of typing in here character. So we'll put in actually, you know what, before we do that, I'm sorry, let me back up one step. Let's come all the way up to the top of the file and declare an NS dictionary. We're going to call this character data, and then come back down here. All right, character data is now going to equal NS dictionary, and dictionary with dictionary, and then we're just going to put in our car data there. All right. So from here on out, it'll just make more sense to just use this character data, which is being retained. It's now one of our properties up here, and we'll be able to access the character data inside the property list and any other methods inside of this class. All right, so you can kind of forget about now this car data right here. And now let's go in and write character data object for key base frame. Do one more bracket out that way, and if everything is working as planned, if we were to run this right now, hopefully we'd be seeing the exact same thing, okay, because that base frame is set to character, what it was before, and sure enough, there's our little guy, and things do appear to be working. All right, so good job. One thing we should have checked too is let's go over here and replace out the level map with its corresponding item. So here it's going to be level dict object for key, and I believe we called that background, right? Okay, and hopefully we still see our background after this. And I already am seeing it. There's that grid. All right, so that's a good sign. So now I think what we should do is, in a separate video, we'll come back and talk about setting up some of the, or defining the actual physics borders and showing them, which is very important for just kind of testing later on. So we'll put in those properties, and that'll probably cover at least one full video, and we'll do that for both the background and the character.